Imagine you're ready to end your marriage. The romance is gone. The arguments are predictable, and the only spark left is from the toaster that hasn't been cleaned since Obama's first term. You think the hard part is over, but then you meet American divorce law, a creature so bizarre it makes reality TV look logical. Here, you can't divorce while pregnant, but you can if your spouse disappeared for 7 years. You can sue for lost affection, serve papers through the classifieds, and one judge can literally ban you from using your ex's initials. These are not jokes. These are laws, real ones. So buckle up as we unravel 33 of the dumbest divorce rules ever written, where outdated legislation meets modern stupidity in a perfect legal disaster. Welcome to Factoland, the only place where your ex's behavior isn't the dumbest part of your breakup. Number 1. Imagine getting divorced and thinking the worst thing you'll lose is half your stuff. Maybe the couch, maybe the dog, maybe your sanity. But in Alabama, the judge can take something far more personal. Your letters, not the love letters, the alphabetic letters. Because in this state, a judge can legally forbid a divorced woman from using her ex-husband's first name, or even his initials. Imagine going through all the pain of a breakup and then hearing, "Ma'am, the court has decided you may no longer use the letter J." Just imagine the chaos. You walk into Starbucks, they ask your name, and you have to say, legally complicated. All your monogrammed towels instantly become illegal contraband. Your email signature gets redacted like CIA documents. Your friends stop calling because they can't pronounce your new court-approved nickname, Renier. It's like a witness protection program, but only for letters. Alabama didn't just end your marriage, it ended your alphabet. Number 2. Now let's travel to Delaware, the only state where your marriage can be undone with the same energy as a failed prank video. Because if you got married as a joke or on a dare, Delaware will look at your paperwork, shrug, and say, "Yeah, okay, that tracks." Imagine explaining this to a judge. "Your Honor, we didn't mean to get married. He dared me. I lost. And also, tequila." And Delaware, in its infinite wisdom, actually wrote this into the law. Marriages started as a joke can be erased like they never happened. They don't fine you, they don't lecture you. They just tap the delete button on your relationship like clearing browser history. This means somewhere out there, a couple once walked into a courthouse and said, "Surprise! We were kidding!" And the court said, "So were we, apparently." Delaware is the only place where you can legally say, "My marriage was an inside joke," and the government agrees. Number 3. South Dakota has a special place in American divorce history, not because of romance, not because of heartbreak, but because it's the only state where you can legally end your marriage using the same method people use to sell old lawnmowers: a newspaper ad. No, seriously, if your spouse disappears, and I mean disappears, like ghosted you harder than a bad Tinder date, the court allows you to serve divorce papers by publishing a tiny announcement in the classifieds. That's it, a 2-inch column squeezed between Lost Brown Labrador and John's Plumbing Services. Imagine how wild your breakup has to be for the government to say, "Yeah, go ahead, just put it next to the coupons." And picture the scene. You haven't seen your spouse in years. They vanished one random Tuesday after arguing about dishwasher settings. You've moved on. You've healed. You've started a new life. And the court tells you, post an ad. If they see it, great. If not, well, we tried. Somewhere out there, your missing spouse is stocking shelves at a gas station in Wyoming and completely unaware that their entire marriage status is being updated next to an ad for discounted tractor parts. And the best part? If they don't respond, the court just gives you the divorce anyway. It's the only time in human history where being ignored actually benefits the relationship. Imagine being so done with your marriage that your last act as a couple is sharing space with garage sale listings. South Dakota didn't just modernize divorce, it monetized it. Number 4. Oklahoma believes in second chances, but not fast ones. Here, after you get divorced, the state forces you into a mandatory 6-month relationship timeout before you can marry anyone else. 6 months. A whole emotional probation period. It's not about healing. It's not about growth. This is Oklahoma grabbing you by the collar going, "Slow down, Romeo. You already crashed the car once." Because somewhere in history, someone got divorced at noon and remarried by dinner. And lawmakers panicked like, "Oh, absolutely not. Shut this circus down. You can date again, move in together, adopt a ferret, start a TikTok couples account." The state does not care, but the moment you try to say "I do" again. Oklahoma burst through the wall like the Kool-Aid man yelling, "Halt! Paperwork denied." Imagine explaining this to your new partner. "I swear I love you, but Oklahoma says I'm grounded right now." It's the only place where your love life comes with a built-in warranty period. Not for protection, but for prevention. Number 5. Connecticut has a rule so dramatic it feels stolen from a true crime documentary. If your spouse disappears for 7 years, the court finally says, "Yeah, they're not coming back." 7 years. That's not a legal time frame. That's a side quest in a fantasy RPG. Imagine the breakup. They storm out after an argument about whose turn it was to take out the trash, shout, "I'm done," slam the door, and then just vanish. Not next week, not next month, not even after you remodel the kitchen out of spite. Life goes on. You get a new job, a new haircut, a new partner who actually listens. Meanwhile, the court is pacing like, well, maybe they're really committed to ghosting. 7 years is enough to learn a language, raise a child, fake your own death, and still have time to accept they're not coming back from that quick trip to Target. Imagine standing before the judge. "Your Honor, it's been 2,556 days," and the judge finally sighs. "All right, fine, you're single." Connecticut doesn't just end your marriage, it gives your missing spouse a 7-year head start on their new life as a barista in Portland. Number 6. Kentucky has a divorce rule so ridiculous it feels like the writers of a sitcom stepped into the legislature. In this state, you can marry the same person again, and again, and again. But you are legally forbidden from marrying them a 4th time. 3 seasons of chaos. Approved. Season 4. Canceled by the government. Imagine how unstable a couple has to be for lawmakers to basically say, "Carl, Tammy, we've seen enough." You just know this law came from one legendary couple marching into the courthouse every few years. Like, "We're back," and the judge staring at them like, "These people have raccoon in a dumpster energy." The state finally stepped in like a tired parent. "Look, you had marriage 1, fine. Marriage 2, questionable. Marriage 3, concerning. Marriage 4, absolutely not. Stop speed-running romance." Picture telling your friends, "We're getting back together," and they reply, "No, you're not. The state said no." Because Kentucky realized something important. After 3 breakups with the same person, you're not rekindling love. You're running laps in chaos. Love may be blind, but Kentucky has 20/20 vision and a restraining order for your 4th wedding. Number 7. Delaware appears again because this state treats marriage like a malfunctioning device. Before you throw it away, you must legally unplug it for a while. This is the infamous separate and apart requirement. Meaning, before the court will finalize your divorce, they want proof that you and your spouse have been living apart long enough to confirm that you're truly done. Not emotionally apart, not philosophically apart, physically apart. Different homes, different beds, different Netflix accounts. It's basically the law saying, listen, maybe you two just need space, like a lot of space. Imagine standing in court trying to prove this. "Your Honor, we've been apart for months." The judge squints. Define apart. Did you still share a Wi-Fi password? Yes. Did you still share a dog? Well, technically, denied. Delaware wants to make sure no one is filing for divorce just because they had one bad weekend, one burnt dinner, one mismatched holiday sweater incident. They want to know you truly hate each other on a structural level. And the funniest part? Some couples actually separate, live apart, begin dating new people, and then still have to return to court to prove it, like a weird loyalty test. Your marriage is dead, but Delaware wants receipts. Literal receipts, like utility bills, rental agreements, maybe even that single photo of you dramatically holding a cardboard box in your new empty apartment. Delaware isn't ending your marriage until it's 100% sure you've emotionally unplugged it, reset it, and turned off Bluetooth. Number 8. And then, there's America's most chaotic rule. In several states, Texas, Florida, Arizona, Arkansas, you cannot finalize a divorce if one spouse is pregnant. Not shouldn't. Not it's complicated. You literally cannot. Divorce court looks at your emotional suffering, your crumbling marriage, your mutual hatred, and says, nope, keep cooking that baby. Try again later. It doesn't matter if you're miserable. It doesn't matter if you've already moved out. It doesn't matter if the marriage ended before the pregnancy began. If there's a baby on board, you two are legally locked together like characters in the world's worst buddy cop movie. And the reason? The court wants clarity on custody and paternity. Basically, they don't want the baby to come out legally homeless. But in real life, this creates scenarios so awkward they could power their own sitcom. Imagine this. You file for divorce. You're ready to move on. You've emotionally detached so hard that you don't even remember your anniversary anymore. But the judge bangs the gavel and says, "Sorry, folks, she's pregnant. You're staying married." And both of you answer at the same time, "It's not mine." Too bad. The law doesn't care. It only knows one thing: divorce denied. Pregnancy wins. Now imagine the 9 months after that ruling. Awkward doctor visits, awkward living arrangements, awkward everything. You and your soon-to-be ex go from broken marriage to legally required roommates with a countdown clock. It's like forcing two boxers who just finished a fight to hug for an hour. And for the grand finale? Once the baby is born, the court finally says, "All right, you may now proceed with the destruction of your marriage." America's motto should be, "We believe in freedom, unless someone's pregnant." Number 9. Now let's step into the legal twilight zone known as alienation of affection. This law still exists in a handful of American states: North Carolina, Utah, South Dakota, Mississippi, and New Mexico. And it allows you to sue someone for stealing your spouse's affection. Affection, not money, not property, not your dog. Affection, like it's a physical object you dropped at a grocery store. Imagine walking into a courtroom and announcing with a straight face, "Your Honor, my spouse loved me." Then Chad from accounting showed up. Chad owes me $750,000. And the judge doesn't laugh. The judge nods. Because in these states, "my spouse left me because someone else was cooler" is a legally actionable situation. Now imagine being Chad. You meet someone. Things are going great. You think you're building a future. Then suddenly, you get slapped with a lawsuit for being too charming. "Excuse me, Chad, you allegedly caused 80% affection loss, 40% emotional damages, and 1 broken marriage. You're being billed." It turns cheating into a math problem. The best part? Couples sometimes use this law as a team attack move. The divorcing spouses hate each other, but they hate Chad more. So they unite like a dysfunctional superhero team to sue the homewrecker. It's the only time in history where divorce court becomes an Avengers crossover episode. And remember, this is not satire. This is real. This is America, where love might be blind, but apparently it's also worth a cash payout. Number 10. Colorado brings us a masterpiece. If you got married as a joke, as in on a dare, on impulse, as part of a chaotic Vegas-style decision, or because someone shouted, "Do it! You won't!" the court can decide the marriage was never real. Imagine 2 drunk friends stumbling out of a party. Someone pulls out a phone. Someone else says, "Let's get married." And 5 minutes later, they're reciting vows while the officiant wonders why humanity is allowed to vote. You wake up the next morning with a headache, a marriage certificate, and a text from your best friend that says, "Bro, you actually did it." Most states would make you suffer through the paperwork of a real divorce, but not Colorado. Colorado saw the chaos and said, No, if you two were stupid enough to marry on a dare, we refuse to take this seriously. It's like the state is patting you on the head saying, "Shh, it's okay. Just pretend it never happened." Imagine going to court. "Your Honor, we weren't really in love. So why did you get married?" Peer pressure? Say no more. Annulled. This law exists because at some point lawmakers realized people were treating marriage like a TikTok challenge. Instead of shaming them, the state just gave them a legal reset button. Colorado isn't judging you. It's disappointed, but it's also giving you a second chance. Mainly because the first one was clearly a cry for help. Number 11. Mississippi brings us back to the early 1900s, or at least that's what it feels like, because their divorce laws include ancient grounds like natural impotency, idiocy, and insanity. Yes, idiocy, a word that feels like it should only be spoken while wearing a top hat. Imagine trying to file for divorce and having to prove your spouse is an idiot. What does that even look like in court? Your Honor, the defendant once microwaved a metal fork. Twice. Judge leans forward. Go on. He also thinks Wi-Fi is stored in the fridge. Judge slams the gavel. Idiot. Divorce granted. These laws were written when people believed headaches were caused by ghosts and doctors prescribed whiskey as medicine. And somehow, through all these years, these legal fossils are still sitting in the rule book like forgotten museum exhibits. Now, do courts actually apply them today? Rarely. But they exist, just waiting for the right couple to march in and declare, "My spouse is legally dumb." And if the judge agrees, congratulations. Your divorce doesn't just free you, it becomes a historical reenactment. Mississippi didn't modernize their law books. They just preserved them like ancient artifacts. Romantic? Maybe not. But hilarious? Absolutely. Number 12. New York gives us a divorce twist worthy of a Wall Street plotline. Your college degree, yes, the diploma you earned through caffeine abuse and emotional breakdowns, can be considered marital property. That means if you earned a professional degree during your marriage, law, medicine, nursing, engineering, the court can treat it like a shared investment, a joint asset, something your spouse can get a slice of. Imagine studying for 8 years, drowning in student debt, pulling all-nighters, memorizing anatomy charts or legal codes, only to have your spouse stand in the courtroom and say, "Yeah, Your Honor, I helped with that." Helped how, exactly? By occasionally handing you a Red Bull, by not talking during finals week, by offering emotional support one time in 2014, and the judge nods like, "This is normal." Yes, emotional support counts. Please calculate the value of affection-based contribution. Suddenly, your degree, your blood, sweat, panic attacks, and possibly a few criminally expensive textbooks becomes a financial asset. Something to divide, like a house or a boat. Except you can't move out of a degree. You can't sell half of a medical license. You can't split a law diploma down the middle with scissors. But the court tries anyway. Imagine being forced to assign your education a monetary value. How much is your degree worth? Well, crippling debt and chronic stress mostly. New York turned your achievements into marital loot. You thought graduation was the hardest part, but the real final exam is divorce court. Number 13. Before 2010, New York had another gem, a divorce system so outdated it felt like it was written on parchment. Back then, you couldn't just walk in and say, "Your Honor, we're done." Nope. New York wanted details. Scandal, crime, drama, something juicy. To get divorced, you needed grounds. Not "we grew apart." Not "he snores like a chainsaw possessed by demons." Not "she rearranges the kitchen cabinets at 2 a.m. No, you needed adultery, cruelty, abandonment, imprisonment, or some other Victorian-era tragedy, if your spouse wasn't doing anything legally terrible, you were stuck, trapped. Like a Netflix subscription you forgot to cancel. This led to couples inventing fake reasons just to escape each other. Imagine hiring actors to burst into your bedroom so you can catch your spouse cheating for legal purposes. Imagine standing in front of the judge. Your Honor, I accuse my spouse of, malicious pillow stealing? That's not a crime. Spousal neglect of passion fruit? Also not a crime. Fine. Adultery. Do you have proof? Not really. It became a circus so ridiculous that New York finally gave in and said, "Okay, fine. You can divorce because the marriage is irretrievably broken." Happy now. People celebrated like it was the end of Prohibition, because for decades, New Yorkers weren't just fighting with their spouses. They were fighting with the law itself. New York didn't just complicate divorce, it turned it into a creative writing assignment. Number 14. Some marriages end with shouting matches, others end with financial ruin. But the truly cursed ones? They end with silence, long weaponized nuclear-grade silence. The kind of silence that creeps through hallways and settles over the dinner table like a fog of resentment. Imagine living with someone who decides to communicate only through dramatic sighs, suspiciously loud dishwashing, and the occasional slammed drawer for punctuation. Day 1, you think they're just moody. Day 2, maybe they're tired. By day 46, you are genuinely unsure if your spouse has taken a vow of emotional monasticism. Picture telling a judge, "Your Honor, my spouse hasn't spoken to me since Valentine's Day." The judge pauses. "That was 5 months ago." "Yes, Your Honor, they handed me a note that said, 'Okay,' and then stopped writing too." If courts ever recognized 90 consecutive days of emotional Cold War as abandonment, half of America would be free by summer. Because nothing kills a marriage quite like being ghosted by the person legally required to share a Wi-Fi plan with you. Silence isn't peaceful, it's psychological warfare, and your marriage never stood a chance. Number 15. Laundry shouldn't end a marriage, but in some homes, laundry becomes the slow, silent assassin that kills love one crusty towel at a time. Picture this. You open the dryer and discover a mountain of clothes that's been in there so long, it has its own microclimate. Warm, stale, slightly damp, like the breath of a tired dragon. Your spouse put them there 3 days ago. Or was it last week? Time has lost meaning. The clothes have fused into one large, wrinkled fabric creature. You carry the basket into the bedroom, hoping this is the week they finally fold something. Anything. A sock, a washcloth, a single brave t-shirt willing to stand alone. But no, your spouse walks past the laundry like it's part of the furniture. They step over it, sit near it, watch TV in full view of it. They acknowledge its existence emotionally, the same way they acknowledge climate change. Yeah, that sucks anyway. And every time you try to talk about it, they give you that expression. The one that silently says, "It'll get done, eventually." It never does. Imagine explaining this in a courtroom. "Your Honor, I can no longer live with someone who treats clean laundry like a storage medium." How long has it been? 8 years, Your Honor. We've never seen the bottom of the laundry basket. The judge removes their glasses, exhausted. I regret to say this, but you deserve freedom. Because laundry is not just laundry. It's communication, it's teamwork, it's maturity. And when one person stops doing their part, the entire relationship starts smelling faintly of neglect and dryer sheets. If courts ever recognized permanent laundry abandonment as grounds for divorce, the population would drop, but the folding efficiency would skyrocket. Laundry doesn't lie. Laundry tells you exactly who you married. And in your case, that truth was waiting in the dryer, getting wrinklier by the hour. Number 16. Every couple has arguments about chores. Who takes out the trash? Who forgot the dishes? Who keeps leaving socks in places socks should never be? But some spouses don't just avoid chores. They turn chore evasion into a full-time lifestyle, a calling, a spiritual practice. Imagine living with someone who has mastered the ancient art of disappearing the instant responsibility enters the room. You pick up a broom? They suddenly have to check something in the garage. You ask them to help with dishes, they are instantly in the bathroom, handling something important. You mention vacuuming and they collapse on the couch like Victorian nobility, afflicted by a sudden case of the vapors. Years go by. Not days, not weeks, years. You've cleaned enough for 2 lifetimes. You've scrubbed floors until you've considered charging rent to the dirt. Meanwhile, your spouse is lounging like an unpaid intern in their own home. Imagine telling the judge, "Your Honor, for 5 consecutive years, my spouse avoided every chore." Every chore? Yes, Your Honor. Did they take out the trash? No. Do laundry? No. Wash a single plate? Your Honor, they used paper plates to avoid that. At some point, chore evasion isn't laziness, it's abandonment. A slow, domestic betrayal you can smell in the sink and see growing in the bathroom corners. It's the quiet realization that your spouse hasn't touched a cleaning product since the Bush administration. And that's when you understand, this wasn't a partnership. It was a hostage situation. And you were the janitor. If divorce ever had a habitual laziness clause, half the country would qualify instantly. Because nothing destroys romance faster than carrying the entire household, while your spouse contributes nothing but excuses. Number 17. Texting was supposed to make communication easier. Instead, for some couples, it becomes the slow digital drip that ruins everything. Imagine being in a relationship where every emotionally vulnerable message you send, every heartfelt question, every attempt at connection, gets answered with a single word reply. Okay, fine, sure. The holy trinity of relationships decay. There's nothing more soul-crushing than pouring your heart into a paragraph-long message and receiving back a response so short it feels like a legal disclaimer. You start feeling like you're texting a malfunctioning AI instead of a human you married. Picture trying to resolve a conflict. We really need to talk about our future. K. I feel like we're drifting apart. Okay, I'm crying right now. Sure. By the 50th one-word reply, you're not even mad anymore. You're studying the messages like an archaeologist searching for emotional fossils. Is K better than okay? Is sure sarcastic or just dead inside? Why does fine feel like a threat? Imagine explaining this to a judge. Your Honor, my spouse has responded to every message with one word for 9 months. What kind of words? Okay, sure, fine. The judge winces. That's emotional cruelty. Divorce granted. Because one-word replies aren't neutral. They're cold, dismissive, and perfectly designed to make you feel like you're arguing with someone who's mentally checked out of both the conversation and the marriage. Silent treatment hurts. But one-word replies? That's psychological slow torture delivered through a glowing screen. Nothing kills a relationship faster than someone who puts less effort into texting you than they put into ordering a burrito online. When a spouse reduces communication to 3 letters at a time, it's not a marriage anymore, it's a countdown. Number 18. Social media was supposed to connect people. Instead, it became the unofficial third member of half the marriages in America. And in some households, it's the most loved member. Imagine living with someone who posts everything online. Not some things, not cute pet pictures, not vacation photos, everything. Your arguments? Posted. Your bad hair days? Posted. Your grocery list? Somehow also posted. Your private conversation from last night. Now a motivational quote on their Instagram story. You wake up, rub your eyes, check your phone, and find out that your spouse has uploaded a marriage update to Facebook without even glancing in your direction. The caption reads something like sex. Sometimes love is hard, but we grow, healing, journey, you pray for. Meanwhile, you were asleep the whole time, blissfully unaware that you were starring in a public therapy session. Imagine going out to dinner, a rare romantic attempt. And they don't talk to you once, not because they're mad, not because they're shy, but because they're crafting the perfect photo of their lasagna. And you know the worst part? The comments section knows more about your marriage than you do. Your spouse doesn't talk to you about problems. They crowdsource opinions from strangers named Crystal and Mike with the truck fees him 5 instead. Imagine confessing this in court. Your Honor, my spouse told TikTok we were breaking up before telling me. The judge blinks. They announced your divorce on TikTok? Technically, Your Honor, they did a transition video. And at that point, even the legal system gives up because it wasn't cheating. It wasn't the arguments. It wasn't the money. It was being publicly humiliated by someone who can't have a single emotion without turning it into content. In the hands of an oversharer, social media becomes a megaphone, a diary, and a weapon, all aimed directly at their spouse. Number 19. Cooking is supposed to be an act of love, a quiet domestic ritual that brings couples together. But then, there are people who weaponize cooking incompetence so thoroughly, it feels like grounds for criminal charges. Imagine marrying someone who claims, with full confidence, that they're an amazing cook. They brag about it, they hype it up, they post pictures of other people's food like they made it. But the moment they step into the kitchen, it's a war crime. They burn water, they undercook instant noodles. They once made chicken so raw, the chicken technically still had a future. You try to teach them. You try to show them where the knives are. You try to explain that seasoning is not optional. It's oxygen. But they insist, loudly, proudly, that they're a culinary genius whose skills are simply misunderstood. Now imagine your anniversary dinner. They set the table, candles, wine, romance. You sit down, you smile, and then you take one bite and realize the lasagna tastes like despair. Not bad, not need salt, despair. You chew slowly, trying to understand how spaghetti sauce became both crunchy and soggy at the same time. You take another bite, hoping the first was a fluke. It wasn't. Then comes the moment, the one every food victim knows, when they look at you with pride, waiting for validation. So, what do you think? And you whisper internally, I think I need a will. Imagine explaining this to a judge. Your Honor, my spouse told me they could cook. They lied. The judge leans in. In what way? They put ketchup in a stir-fry, Your Honor. The judge gasps. Monstrous. Because it's not about lack of skill. It's the false advertising, the culinary fraud, the betrayal by sauté. Cooking isn't just feeding someone, it's caring for them. And when every meal feels like an act of violence, divorce stops being a question and becomes a survival strategy. In a world full of recipes, your spouse chose chaos, and they served it warm, with no seasoning. Number 20, there are in-laws, and then there are invasions. And some marriages collapse not because of the couple, but because of the unstoppable force known as extended family on tour. Imagine this. You wake up one morning, stroll into the kitchen, and find your mother-in-law already there. She's wearing your apron, she's cooking your eggs, she's rearranging your cabinets like she's staging a coup. You ask, "Oh, when did you get here?" And she replies, "Last night. I didn't want to wake you." That's fine. One visit is fine. 2 visits? Still fine. But then month after month you notice a pattern. You hear the front door open at 6 a.m. They shuffle in like raccoons with house keys. They unpack and they stay. Days turn into weeks. Weeks turn into months. 90 days somehow turn into an unofficial residency. Your home no longer feels like yours. Your couch is no longer yours. Your snacks, absolutely no longer yours. Your in-laws start giving unsolicited advice. You should discipline your children differently. You need new towels. You should let furniture breathe more. Furniture, breathe. You try to escape to your bedroom, but even there, you hear them whispering outside your door like they're discussing military strategy. Imagine sitting in front of a judge. Your Honor, my in-laws live with us for 90 days a year. Was this planned? Absolutely not, Your Honor. They appear randomly like seasonal allergies. And the judge knows? Oh, the judge knows. Because nothing ends a marriage faster than your in-laws turning your home into a vacation rental they don't pay for, especially when they criticize everything you do, touch everything you own, and leave reviews on your life like it's Yelp. Some people lose their marriage over cheating. You lost yours over surprise family invasions. Number 21. Nevada is famous for two things: casinos and regret. Sometimes both at the same time. But nothing captures the spirit of Vegas like a spouse who develops a special relationship with penny slots. The slot machines designed to fool you into thinking they're harmless. They're not. They're emotional black holes for people who believe luck is due any minute now. Imagine being married to someone who spends entire evenings hunched over a blinking slot machine named Lucky Lady or Flaming Ruby, convinced that the next pull will solve all their problems, including your marriage. You try to talk to them. Honey, maybe we should go home. Just one more. I'm on a streak. They say this while losing money at the speed of a leaky faucet. And then the joint bank account starts bleeding. Not in big dramatic chunks, but in small, steady drips. $5 here, $10 there, $100 on a loyalty card reload. You check your budget and realize your spouse has gambled away more than your car payment. On machines that play circus music, picture the courtroom scene. Your Honor, my spouse spent 30% of our savings on penny slots. The judge sighs deeply. You mean the cheap ones? Yes, Your Honor. He rubs his temples like a man who has heard too much stupidity for one lifetime. Proceed. Because losing money is one thing, but losing money slowly, methodically, and proudly on machines designed for bored tourists, that's a whole different flavor of financial betrayal. It isn't about the money. It's the obsession, the trance, the belief that the universe is sending messages through neon lights. Your spouse didn't gamble on the casino floor. They gambled with your future, and all you got in return was a membership card, a sad coupon for a buffet, and a marriage that broke down one penny at a time. Number 22. Every relationship has a thermostat war. One person wants it warm and cozy. The other wants it cold enough to preserve meat. But some couples take this battle to such extremes that the thermostat becomes the most dangerous object in the house. Imagine living with someone who treats temperature control like a covert military operation. You set it to 72. They sneak over and bump it down to 67. You walk away. They slither across the carpet like a snake with unfinished business and drop it another 2 degrees. Pretty soon you're living inside a passive-aggressive climate experiment. You're wrapped in 3 blankets, shivering like a Victorian orphan. Your spouse wearing shorts, eating ice cream, claiming the house is fine. Then one night, you finally sleep comfortably. You wake up warm, safe, at peace. You walk into the hallway and see the thermostat glowing with a number so low it could legally qualify as a form of torture. Picture telling the judge, Your Honor, my spouse keeps changing the thermostat without telling me. How often? Every hour. Every hour? Yes, Your Honor, I haven't felt my toes since Thanksgiving. Because this isn't just about temperature, it's about control, respect, the unspoken marital agreement that neither of you will attempt to turn the house into a walk-in freezer. Once the thermostat becomes a weapon, marriage is already an active crime scene. Number 23. Some people are DIY warriors. They watch 2 YouTube videos and suddenly think they're qualified to build a deck, install electrical wiring, and completely remodel the bathroom over the weekend. Then there are the other kind. The ones who shouldn't be trusted with a screwdriver, a hammer, or even a confident idea. These are the people who destroy more things than they fix. Imagine being married to someone like that. They insist they can repair the sink because it's probably just a loose thingy. A few minutes later, the kitchen looks like the Titanic's final hour. They say they can install a new light fixture. 5 sparks, 3 curses, and 1 accidental blackout later. You're calling an electrician. They try to patch a hole in the wall. By the end of the day, there are 3 holes, each larger than the last, as if some wild animal is trying to escape your living room. And the worst part? They're proud of these disasters. See, it's coming along. Coming along toward what? Demolition? Imagine explaining this catastrophe in court. Your Honor, my spouse caused $2,000 in damages trying to save money. The judge raises an eyebrow. $2,000? Yes, Your Honor. They tried to fix the leaky faucet and somehow destroyed the dishwasher. Because DIY disasters aren't just expensive, they're emotional terrorism. Every time they say the words, "I've got this," you know you're about to lose a weekend, a major appliance, and possibly your mind. You didn't marry a handy person. You married a walking home renovation emergency, and you've spent years living inside a house that looks like a cautionary tale. Some marriages end with infidelity. Yours ended because your spouse tried to fix a cabinet and accidentally removed part of the ceiling. Number 24. Some people are organized, some people are messy, and then there are the chosen few, the ones who treat important documents like disposable napkins. Imagine being married to someone who hides every critical piece of paperwork. Birth certificates, passports, insurance forms, tax documents, warranties, the deed to the house. Inside the glove compartment of their car. Not a folder, not a safe, just the glove box. A place specifically designed to store the car manual, napkins, mysterious crumbs, and maybe sunglasses. Not a place to hold the entire identity of your family. You ask, "Where's our tax return from last year?" They shrug. "In the car." You pause. That's not helpful. It's in the car, somewhere. So you walk outside. You open the glove box, and a stack of random crumpled papers spills out like a sad piñata full of stress. Some are wrinkled, some are stained. One is stuck to an old receipt from Wendy's. This becomes a pattern every time you need something important. You don't go to a filing cabinet. You go to the driveway like you're about to perform surgery on a Honda. Imagine telling the judge, "Your Honor, my spouse stored our marriage certificate in the glove box for 3 years." The judge slowly looks up. "Did they also store the car registration there?" You nod. Everything was there, even the dog's adoption papers. The judge removes their glasses. Divorce granted, and Godspeed. Because this isn't just disorganization. It's neglect. It's disregard. It's choosing the worst possible storage location out of sheer confidence. Nothing kills romance like realizing your spouse treats your mortgage paperwork the same way they treat fast food napkins, shoved somewhere, forgotten, and mildly greasy. Number 25. Anniversaries are simple. You remember the date. You celebrate the love. You pretend you didn't argue over where to eat last week. But some spouses turn forgetting anniversaries into a consistent Olympic-level tradition. Imagine this. Year 1, they forget. Fine. Year 2, they forget again. A little concerning. Year 3, they forget and ask, "Wait, is it today?" By year 5, they don't even pretend to remember. You try to drop hints. You send reminders. You circle the date on the calendar in thick red marker. You even set alarms on their phone labeled, "Important, do not screw up." Still nothing. On the big day, you're sitting at a restaurant with your hair done, wearing the outfit they once said they liked. And you get a text. "Hey, do we have milk?" Meanwhile, it's your anniversary dinner. Alone. Picture telling the judge, "Your Honor, my spouse forgot our anniversary for 5 consecutive years." The judge leans back. 5 years? You nod. And the 6th year? "They forgot that too, Your Honor." The judge sighs. Emotional negligence. Proceed. Because forgetting once is human. Forgetting twice is careless. Forgetting 5 times? That's not forgetfulness. That's habit, a routine, a tradition, a commitment to non-commitment. You realize your marriage has become a one-person celebration, like throwing a birthday party where the guest of honor never shows up. You remember every moment. They remember grocery shopping. Anniversaries aren't about gifts or fancy dinners. They're about acknowledging the relationship exists. And when one person consistently forgets, it's like living with a partner who's permanently hit Ctrl-Alt-Delete on your entire shared history. Some marriages die from conflict. Yours died from amnesia. Number 26. Some people dream big, really big, beautifully big. But then there are the spouses who dream so big, so constantly, and so irrationally that their optimism becomes a kind of domestic terrorism. Imagine being married to someone who wakes up every morning with a brand new life plan. A plan that will never happen. doesn't make sense, and somehow always involves moving to another state or buying livestock. One day they say, let's start a llama farm. The next day, let's open a candle business. Then they want to flip houses, then become travel vloggers, then create an app, then open a dog bakery, then start a kombucha empire, then become motivational speakers, even though they haven't motivated themselves to do laundry in 2 months. Every week, it's a new dream. Every dream requires money. Every dream dies within 48 hours. Your marriage becomes a graveyard of abandoned ideas. Imagine the emotional whiplash. Monday, we should move to Colorado and start a hot air balloon company. Wednesday, never mind, let's become minimalists. Friday, actually, I think we should live off-grid in a yurt. Your spouse is living 20 parallel lives while you're still trying to figure out what to cook for dinner. Now picture telling the judge, Your Honor, my spouse has had 47 life plans this year. The judge raises an eyebrow. And how many did they attempt? 0. They only made mood boards. The judge nods slowly. A classic case of delusional entrepreneurship. Because dreams are beautiful, but 50 unfulfilled dreams? That's not inspiration. That's exhaustion. You didn't sign up for a marriage. You signed up for a never-ending TED Talk. Some couples fight over money. Some fight over chores. You fought over the psychological cost of living with a human Pinterest board. And eventually, the dream wasn't the problem. It was living with someone who never actually woke up. Number 27. Fitness is good. Fitness is healthy. Fitness can save your life. But some spouses turn fitness into a full-blown religion. And suddenly, you're married to someone who treats every day like they're training for the Olympics. Imagine this. You wake up Saturday morning hoping for pancakes and a peaceful breakfast. Your spouse is already in spandex, stretching like they're about to audition for Cirque du Soleil. They look at you and say, "Babe, want to run 15 miles?" No, you do not. But this is your life now. They sign up for marathon after marathon, triathlon after triathlon, fitness challenge after fitness challenge, dragging you into a world where every vacation becomes a race opportunity. You take a trip to Hawaii? They say, "Perfect. There's a 4 a.m. sunrise run." You go to New York? Great. Half marathon through Manhattan. You want a romantic weekend getaway? They want to do mountain endurance training. Imagine eating dinner together. They're weighing their chicken breast like it's uranium. You're trying to enjoy a burger, but they're staring at you like you're committing a hate crime against your arteries. It gets worse. They start giving unsolicited fitness advice. You know, if you improved your VO2 max, you tune out. You don't even know what a VO2 max is. You thought it was a new phone model. Now imagine standing before a judge. Your Honor, my spouse signed up for 6 marathons this year without telling me. The judge looks horrified. 6? Yes, Your Honor, I haven't had a weekend off since spring. The judge writes something down. I'm listing this as recreational abandonment. Proceed. Because exercise is great, but being married to someone who treats daily life like a training montage? That's not a relationship. That's a fitness cult with poor communication. You didn't lose your spouse to cheating. You lost them to cardio. And honestly, no human heart should have to compete with a treadmill. Number 28. Every home has a remote control, and every remote control has a story. Some are stories of cooperation. Others are stories of war. Imagine being married to someone who treats the TV remote like it's the nuclear launch codes. They hide it. They protect it. They guard it with an intensity usually reserved for national secrets. You sit down on the couch after a long day, ready to unwind. The remote is missing. You look under the cushions, behind the cushions, under the couch, in the refrigerator for reasons you can't explain. You ask your spouse, "Have you seen the remote?" They say with suspicious calm, "No." Then 30 seconds later, you see them adjusting the volume. With the remote they claimed not to have. This isn't absent-mindedness. This is strategy. They put the remote in places it doesn't belong. Inside a sock drawer, under the mattress, behind a stack of books whose existence you've never acknowledged. One time you found it inside the dishwasher. You didn't ask questions. You were afraid of the answer. Your spouse doesn't watch TV, they control it, like a dictator in pajamas. Imagine explaining this to a judge. Your Honor, every time we argued, my spouse hid the remote. The judge leans forward. In retaliation? Yes, Your Honor, they held entertainment hostage. The judge nods solemnly. A cruel and unusual punishment indeed. Because the remote isn't just a device. It's power. It's control. It's who decides whether you watch a documentary, a crime show, or the same sitcom reruns they've seen 1,000 times. Once the remote becomes a weapon, the marriage becomes a battlefield. And there are no winners, just people watching static because they can't change the channel. Number 29. Holidays are supposed to be warm, cozy, and magical. But then there are the couples where one spouse turns holiday decorating into a full-blown seasonal hostage situation. Imagine living with someone who believes that Christmas lights should cover every inch of your property, including areas you didn't know were electrically accessible. They order boxes, then more boxes, then boxes for the boxes. You wake up one morning and your garage looks like Santa's supply chain exploded. They don't want some lights. They want 40,000 of them. Enough luminescence to signal aircraft from space. Enough wattage to make your electric bill cry. You try to reason with them. Maybe we don't need lights on the dog? They ignore you while carefully attaching reindeer antlers to the lawnmower. Soon your neighbors gather outside like tourists visiting a national monument. Some take pictures, some complain about light pollution. A few wear sunglasses at night. Then comes the worst part. They expect you to help. Not for an hour, not for an afternoon, for days. You become an unpaid employee in the holiday madness factory. Imagine climbing ladders, holding tangled wires, and listening to your spouse shout, "No, no! The twinkle mode needs to be synchronized with the inflatable snowman." Imagine standing in court and saying, "Your Honor, my spouse forced me to spend 6 entire weekends decorating the house." The judge blinks. 6 weekends? Yes, Your Honor. They wanted the backyard to have thematic consistency. The judge looks traumatized. Proceed. Because holiday extremes aren't cute. They're exhausting. They turn December into a month-long endurance event you never signed up for. You didn't lose your marriage to infidelity or money. You lost it to a person who treated your home like a seasonal amusement park with unlimited budget and zero boundaries. Some marriages die in the dark. Yours died under 40,000 blinking LED lights. Number 30. Leftovers are sacred. They are hope in a container, a promise of tomorrow, a reward for surviving a terrible day. And in some marriages, they are the spark that ignites a full-scale emotional meltdown. Imagine finally sitting down after a brutal day. You open the fridge, ready for your favorite leftover meal, the one you specifically labeled, wrapped tightly, placed on the top shelf, and maybe even whispered, "See you later" to, but it's gone. Not misplaced, not moved, gone. You look around the kitchen like you're solving a crime scene. Then you hear it, the sound of your spouse casually scraping the last bit off a plate. They look at you with zero guilt and say, "Oh, was that yours? Was that yours?" You labeled it. You hid it. You protected it like it was a newborn child. And they devoured it at 11:58 p.m. like a gremlin with a personal vendetta. Imagine explaining this betrayal in court. "Your Honor, I cannot live with someone who eats my leftovers." The judge nods deeply. "And how long has this been happening?" 3 years, Your Honor. They eat faster than I can emotionally recover." The judge writes something down. A pattern of culinary betrayal. Proceed. Because leftover theft isn't just hunger. It's disrespect. It's sabotage. It's taking your happiness straight out of the fridge and replacing it with disappointment and an empty container. Some marriages fall apart from emotional neglect. Yours fell apart because someone couldn't resist last night's lasagna. Number 31. Sleep should be peaceful. Sleep should be restorative. Sleep should not be interrupted at 4:57 a.m. because your spouse needs to talk about us. Imagine resting comfortably, wrapped in blankets, dreaming of a life where you have matching pillows, and no one wakes you before sunrise. Then suddenly, tap, tap, tap. Hey, we need to talk. You open one eye, it's still dark. Birds aren't even awake yet. The universe is asleep. And your spouse has chosen this moment to discuss whether the relationship feels emotionally aligned. They pace at the foot of the bed like a TED Talk speaker warming up. They turn on a lamp. The bright one, they ask deep, existential questions like, do you think we communicate enough? Or, where do you see us in 5 years? You stare at them with the face of someone who has not processed a single neuron since 3 a.m. Now picture the courtroom. Your Honor, my spouse wakes me at 5 in the morning to discuss our marriage. The judge recoils. Before coffee? Yes, Your Honor. The judge closes the file. One humane. Because there are many forms of cruelty, but none as savage as waking someone before dawn to emotionally interrogate them. Your marriage didn't die from lack of love. It died from sleep deprivation. Number 32. Some people live in the past. Some people romanticize the past. And some people weaponize the past. Specifically the honeymoon, until it becomes the emotional equivalent of a hostage negotiation. Imagine being married to someone who constantly compares your entire life to 1 week in Cancun 15 years ago. Every argument ends with, you weren't like this on the honeymoon. You burn dinner? Honeymoon? You would never. You forget something at the store? Honeymoon. You was so thoughtful. The honeymoon becomes their golden age. The benchmark, the measuring stick, the impossible standard. You try to plan a simple weekend trip, they reject everything. No, it won't be like the honeymoon. You try a new restaurant. It's not how we ate on the honeymoon. You buy new sheets. These don't feel like the sheets from the honeymoon. It's like living with a historian who only studies one event. Imagine telling a judge, Your Honor, my spouse is obsessed with our honeymoon. The judge leans forward. How obsessed? They play the footage at least once a month. And that sounds annoying but survivable. They make me rate every moment of our current life on a scale of 1 to honeymoon. The judge slams the gavel. Unacceptable. Proceed. Because the honeymoon isn't real life. It's curated. It's sunshine and resorts and the illusion that the other person is perfect. Real life is taxes and laundry and trying not to kill each other in IKEA. When your spouse refuses to leave that one perfect week, you realize your marriage has 2 people and 1 ghost of a tropical vacation. Number 33. Cabinets, cupboards, pantry shelves, simple, ordinary household storage. Unless you're married to someone who rearranges everything every 2 weeks like they're being chased by invisible demons. Imagine waking up one morning to discover the salt is no longer where it has been for 7 years. Now it's in a new efficiency zone. Next to the rice, which is now next to the pasta, which is now stored where the spices were, which are now under the sink, which makes no sense to anyone but them. Every time you reach for something, it's a scavenger hunt. You don't live in a house. You live in a constantly shifting puzzle. You ask why they keep doing this. They respond with phrases like, I'm optimizing flow, or it just feels better. Or, the most terrifying one, I have a vision for a spice cabinet. Imagine bringing this to court. Your Honor, my spouse reorganizes the cabinets every 2 weeks. The judge gives you a sympathetic nod. And how many times has this happened? 42 times, Your Honor. The judge looks shaken. 42? You nod. I haven't been able to find the paprika since 2019. Because constant rearranging isn't quirky. It's chaos. It's living inside a kitchen that resets itself like a glitching video game. It's the daily fear of opening a cabinet and having something fall on your face because the new system wasn't tested. Some marriages end in flames. Yours ended in alphabetical pantry trauma. And that, my friends, is how America turned divorce into a full contact sport. 33 laws so weird, so petty, and so aggressively stupid that even your worst breakup story feels normal in comparison. From missing spouses to thermostat warfare, one thing's clear: love may fade, but the paperwork never does. If you survived any of these, Congrats, you've earned a medal. If you didn't, at least now you know it wasn't your fault. It was the legal system written during Mercury retrograde. Thanks for watching Factoland, where human stupidity is always in session. Hit like before someone hides the remote, smash subscribe if you want more dark comedy investigations, and drop a comment telling me which divorce law was the dumbest and which one you'd use if you had to. Stay smart, stay sane, and please, fold your laundry.